Let's talk workout structure and order of priority, hierarchy of needs, how to make sure that you get the most out of your workouts with the least amount of effort from thinking, having to always come up with a new way to train or a new program. And also to inherently fix injuries and prevent injuries from ever happening. So the way we do it in the UMS and what we've found to work really, really well is a 60-minute workout structure. So there's like a framework that we can just bolt in, different exercises, different progressions, regressions, depending on what people need, which I'll talk about a little bit later in this, why you would progress, why you would regress, so on and so forth. But the first thing to really get right is a basic workout structure. And what has worked incredibly well for me and the thousands of people that I've coached around the world and my brother and everybody at Unity Gym is a 10-minute warm-up, then 30 minutes of a primary workout, and then a supplementary circuit for about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. Why does this work so well? So for starters, a warm-up should never be more than 10 minutes. More like the warm-up isn't the workout. The warm-up is really just there to prepare you for it, but it should really prepare you for it well. So if you can't do that in 10 minutes, if you need more time, then I recommend refining your warm-up a little bit. It's wasted time you could be used on the bigger bang for your buck stuff. Like the reason, you don't do a strength or flexibility workout with the intention to warm up. You warm up so you can do the workout. So body positioning drills, body strengthening drills, muscle activation drills, not stretching. And you get all that done in 10 minutes, bang, straight into the primary workout. The primary workout, what I've found to work exceptionally well is to have no more than 2 strength exercises and 2 flexibility exercises. So why pair strength and flexibility in the same workout? Because in my opinion, if you don't, it just either one doesn't get done. So people talk about doing flexibility after their strength training or doing it as a second workout. And though these are viable options for getting results, they're not viable for the way that the average busy person in the Western world lives their life. So if you're like me, if you're in your 40s and you've got a family and you've got a career and a job and all this stuff, it's very, very hard to commit to 2 training sessions a day or to 1 really long training session a day, which means, working out for an hour doing weights or resistance training and then planning to do another 30 or 45 minutes of stretching at the end. It's unrealistic long term. So what I like is that when we do our primary workout and we have strength movements for the upper body, and then we do flexibility for the lower body as active recovery. So that means when instead of just sitting there resting between strength training sets, you're doing flexibility movements for the lower body. So if you're training your upper body push and pull, when you're doing flexibility exercises for the hip flexors and hamstrings, those push and pull muscles are resting at the same time. So, and then we like to pair antagonistic movements together, and there's a lot of good reasons for this. So, push and pull, for example. So if you're doing a horizontal push, so bench pressing or push up or something like that, you're pairing it with a horizontal pull. So bent over row or ring row, something like that. Same for vertical push pull. So shoulder press with pull up, or handstand push up or pike push up with pull up, or lat pull down or something like that. Then for lower body strength days, for squatting, we like to do squats with calf raises because the calves do need to be trained, and the calves have very little to do with the squat. They're only really active for the very bottom part of the squat. Pairing squats with hamstrings, which is what a lot of people do, is not a good pairing because the hamstrings are very active during a squat. So it means that you're training the same muscle that you're using for one of the biggest, most important compound lifts during your recovery period, which means you're not recovering effectively. And then, of course, shoulder flexibility. And then when we do deadlifts, we pair deadlifts with rotator cuff work. And the reason why we do that is because the deadlift uses so many muscle groups in the body. The deadlift uses upper body strength as well, whereas the squat doesn't, well, not the same way. And doing some shoulder conditioning with the deadlift is a really good way to do it. So, and then what you do, so the reason why we do just 2 exercises is because those primary lifts, so in the primary workout, we're ticking off the big strength movements. And this is where a lot of people go wrong with their hierarchy of needs with strength training. So the big 7 that we have in the UMS, the bench press, the row, the shoulder press, the pull up, the squat, the deadlift, and the split squat. So those 7 movements, If you're doing those 7 movements and nothing else, you are ticking the box for the vast majority of what is required for functional strength and structural balance in the body. So balance between upper and body strength, balance between pushing and pulling muscles, so opposing muscle systems in the same joint. So, and if you're not doing those, if you're leaving out any of those main movements, then you are leaving, results, you're leaving gains on the table that you could be getting. And so we like to put the majority of those exercises in the primary workout. So I do 2 bent arm strength workouts. One is for horizontal push and pull. One is for vertical push pull. So we separate those. You don't have to, but we've just found that that's a good way to do it, so that you can, so that you're always getting at least one day of the week where you're focusing on either vertical push pull or horizontal push pull and getting maximum result on those big movements. Because whatever you do after your primary workout is never going to be max effort, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So we've got those main upper body movements, we've got the squat, and we've got the deadlift. Split squat we don't usually put in the primary workout. Sometimes we do, but we've only got so many days to train in the week, and when we're training for leg strength, I much prefer doing a high bar barbell back squat or a low bar barbell back squat or a front squat, so a bilateral strength movement. I much prefer putting that first. And here's the reason why. Whatever goes first in the primary workout section, that's the only part of the workout where you will ever be lifting max weight. Because as soon as you finish that primary workout, where we normally do between 4 and 6 sets of those primary exercises, depending on what program cycle we're on. Once you move into the supplementary circuit, everything is sub-maximal effort. Doesn't matter what you think, you are not fresh, which means you can't produce maximal effort. So that's why it's called a supplementary circuit. Some people call them auxiliary lifts, but whatever it is, it's not max effort. So a huge mistake that I see people do is they do a workout and then they do pull-ups after their primary exercises. Or they do, and the reason why pull-ups should always be done in the primary part of your workout is because they're such a demanding exercise. They require so much strength and so much neural drive that if you're fatigued at all, you will not be able to do good pull-ups. The same would be with a handstand push-up or a lot of more advanced calisthenics movements. And whereas with weightlifting, any of those strength training movements that I just listed before, you can change the amount of weight you lift. So you could still do a version of a bench press or a bent over row or a shoulder press or a squat or a deadlift. You could do a version of any of those in your supplementary circuit and just dial the weight back a bit and still do beautiful technique and get really good volume on the exercise. It's very hard to do that with a pull-up for the average person. Now, if you're a calisthenics master and you can bang out 15 reps of pull-ups for 5 sets, or you can do, 50% of your body weight added to a dip belt and do reps of pull-ups. Well, that's a different story. You could then do a different version of a pull-up in your supplementary circuit and still probably do good technique. But what I observe far more often than not is that when people put pull-ups after anything else, their technique is sub-optimal. It's not good. And they're doing like these half reps, where they're barely getting their chin above the bar and they're only going down until this point. They're not getting full range of motion. A lot of reasons why that isn't a good way to train. So then we move into the supplementary circuit. So we've talked about the warm-up and the primary workout. Now we talk about the supplementary circuit. What's the goal of the supplementary circuit? And it's really to add volume to the muscles and to the movements that you've already been working on, but also to bring up the weak links and turn them into strengths. So we have to start talking about kinetic chains now, and talk about the reasons why people get injured and how we overcome injuries just with our base workout. So if you, for example, you do your pull-ups, you do your upper body vertical push-pull workout. So you're doing some form of a vertical push, like a shoulder press or a pike push-up or a handstand pull-up. Push-up, and some form of a vertical pull, some type of a pull-up usually, or if you can't do some type of a pull-up, some type of a lat pull-down. So the biceps have been worked in that workout, the biceps and triceps, but not the same way that they do if you're doing bicep curls and tricep extensions. And this is a good time to add a little bit of volume to those muscles. It's also a good way that you can double down on training your lats or your pecs or your deltoids, for example, by doing isolated work. Things like lateral raises, things like lat pullovers, things like pec flies, things like bent over flies. So this is where in the supplementary circuit we put all those kinds of exercises. And when you look at the hierarchy of needs, at least in the type of training that I'm interested in, which is to produce maximal strength to be able to express in things like calisthenics. And if you're interested in that, or athletic strength development so that you can express your strength in sports, then this is definitely the type of way that you want to train. You wouldn't want to put those supplementary exercises before you're doing your big primary lifts. So what we do is we want to think, how can you come up with an idea of what you want this program block to be. So I might have a program block where my goal is to build hypertrophy in certain muscle groups. So I want to hypertrophy my chest and my upper back and my lats, for example. Then in my supplementary circuit, I'm going to be doing exercises like chest flies, bent over lateral raises, lat pullovers, things like that. But if I want to do a program phase where I'm just working on weak links and I want to target some muscles that I haven't been putting focus in for a little while, for example, like my biceps and triceps or my wrist flexors and extensors, then my supplementary circuit would include bicep and tricep curls and then wrist flexion and wrist extension. And there's so many different ways. This is where programming comes in, and you have goals for periodization blocks and for mesocycles and macrocycles. A mesocycle being a 4 or 6 or 8 week program phase, and a macrocycle being a set of mesocycles. So when you have this workout format, when you have this structure that you've just got locked away, and you know that this is what you're going to do when you go to the gym, then going from cycle to cycle, from mesocycle to mesocycle, or coming up against an injury, or identifying that you have a weak link that needs to be addressed, it's very, very easy, because all you do is change some of the exercises within that program structure, that format, to be able to cater for what the goal is that you have. And good programming gets assessed probably 4 times a year. You assess yourself once every 12 weeks, recognize where your weaknesses are, where your weak links, and then write a program for yourself. So the way that we do it in the UMS is we do 4-week mesocycles. So then you do 2 back-to-back mesocycles of either an accumulation phase to build muscle or an intensification phase to build strength, or 2 accumulation or 2 intensification, depending on what your goals are, depending on where your weak links are. And then when you do that and you're assessing yourself periodically and then following programs that are going to inherently fix these issues, you'd be incredibly surprised at how quickly any old injuries, old aches and pains, and lack of strength and lack of ability that you've had, how quickly they go. People come to us all the time because they have these old injuries and they feel like, oh, I need an exercise that's going to fix this injury. And yes, there's exercises that are very relevant to deal with certain injuries, but it's much more about following a program that just ticks all these boxes of structural balance and then just bolting in the exercise that is relevant to what you need right now. And there is no one-size-fits-all answer for this. This is why in the UMS Tribe membership, we create custom programs for every single person. Everyone fills out a questionnaire when they join, and we create a custom program that bolts into what their schedule, what their availability is, what days of the week they can train, and then what that is going to meet their goals and that's going to deal with whatever injuries they have or whatever imbalances they have. So if you can take away from this, if you maybe have a look at what your workout structure is and look at the way, do you even have a workout structure? Are you clear on what are the blocks of my workout? Within a workout, do I have a clear warm-up, primary workout, and supplementary workout section? Do I understand what the purpose of each of these sections are and what my efforts should be? When you get clear on all of these things, you'll see better results, obviously. You'll have less injuries. You'll fix old injuries. But what's really important, and something that is probably not understood by a lot of people, is you just have more space in your head. There's less stress around your training because you have to spend less time questioning whether what you're doing is the right thing. And for me, that's hugely valuable. It's very valuable to have that mental space to, when I'm away from my workouts, to be present with my family or to be present with my work, because it wasn't like that before we had this UMS structure. I was always, looking for the next and better way to train. So I hope this helps. Any of you watching to this point, you can start a free trial of the UMS Tribe membership. I'll put a link up here where you can join, and there's also going to be another video here for you to watch if you enjoyed this, something that you might like. So hopefully I'll see you in that next video. Oh, and if you've got any questions, just put a comment down there and I'll answer them for you.